We are going live.
Amen.
We are live. Hey. Sexy times. What's good, my dudes? Whoever is watching or will be watching, a very good evening. Sexy times. What's good, my dudes? Whoever. There we go. That's better. So this is just a chill stream. This is my secondary podcast called The Hangout, where it's just more of a casual kind of, in a similar vein to Ash and Luca's Scumcast, where she kind of just goes on the mic to have a chat and just talk about general things gaming. Answer any community questions, or even have the community jump on the mic if they want to talk. And I'm here with my boy Deezy. What's good, Deezy?
Hey guys, what's going on? First time doing one of these easy chill chats. Well, not necessarily my first time, but first time on a podcast doing something like this. I've chimed in on Woolley's chill slash rant when he'd hosted a space a few months back. So this is always good to catch up with my bro.
Oh, it's a privilege, man. It's an honor. Um, I'm just gonna share this out. Feel free to share this out if you can, guys. That would be awesome. Here we go. Here's the link. Posting it in the chat now. Let people know we are live. Oh, it would help if I lower the quality of this video. There we go. Tweeting this out right now. Just bear with me. We are live. Live right now with my boy Deezy. Come hang. If you pardon the pun intended. So how have you been, Deezy, my guy?
I have been on the busy side with a number of things. Small projects here and there, making inroads to some potential really big potential stuff with us. Anybody who follows me knows that I'm passionate about a certain UK studio. So
It's happening. It's
brand new
happening.
stuff is happening. I've progressed to an interview phase with them. Um, and it's a series of 3 interviews that I'm going through right now. I did the first one and it was interesting. They called me back for a second, but that happens in like 2 weeks. Um,
Man, that's me. I can't tell you how excited I am for you, bro. That's awesome. I was very tempted. I didn't do it because I didn't want to in any way, shape, or form. Yeah, like I'm scared to even in any way kind of damage or potentially say something cringe or weird or that would harm your chances. But they posted a photo of the entire team at the studio, and who were working hard on their projects. And I went, you miss, and I was gonna post under it, you're missing someone with a picture of you, but I didn't. I just said congratulations, guys, and looking forward to what you all are working on.
yeah, most people will know that I've since early last year on your podcast when you first launched Company of Gamers, which everybody should be checking out. Episode 1, there was a tease of stuff that I'd seen, um, and everybody was speculating it was Blue Point, and everybody was speculating all sorts of stuff. I knew better naturally, and I just wouldn't talk. And then to my knowledge, I had no idea that they'd that later that year, um, I think it was either May or June, that the studio itself got acquired by Sony. And of course, I lit up because I'd known for quite some time that um, they were working on a number of projects. But the two that really stood out to me was um, their super ambitious narrative title and their
It's crazy,
multiplayer.
right, Deezy, because you were alluded to FireSprite and certain things that you've seen that we haven't, and we still don't know anything about because you've been very faithful to the NDA. But your excitement for these projects is very, very well known, and it really kind of set off the episode 1 podcast with a bit of a bombshell kind of holy shit, we're not ready for what's coming, which was really exciting. But that was
Yeah,
before FireSprite got acquired, right? Or before the
yeah.
announcement. So you must have
Before,
felt
well
over the
before,
moon when you
well
found out they were
before.
acquired.
Oh my gosh, like I couldn't tell you how excited I was for that studio. I mean, like I said, the studio heritage was previously under Sony for quite some
Hmm.
time, right?
Yeah.
They've worked on a number of titles with PlayStation, and they're close. They used to be a part of Psyonix and Studio Liverpool. Um, and if you know Studio Liverpool, if you know Psyonix, those people were Psyonix was one of the very first major Western developers to work with PlayStation. And then a few of those people left from Psyonix and started up Studio Liverpool through Sony. Um, and that studio began to recruit, or I wouldn't say poach, but just kind of talent was jumping between the two back and forth, and then eventually Studio Liverpool just became this massive, um, you know, team that was very much important to the formative years of PlayStation One and legacy titles that they've worked on. Most of them know Studio Liverpool for um, their game for Wipeout, but like the talent behind that studio and everything that they've done um, was something to be celebrated. And like most people didn't know, but when I said that the studio has worked with Sony over the course of the years, most people were assuming it was something like
Blue Point.
Blue Point, but like they were very much a part of launching the PlayStation VR. They're very much a part of launching the AR side of things, and they were pretty much a part of. They worked almost hand in hand with with Team Asobi. So like those were things that I known. But like if I had said anything about Team Asobi or anything like that back when, I was teasing about them, people it would have already given them away, and it probably would have shot chances that I had with where I am right now. So it was pretty amazing because I'm a big fan of that studio. After having seen some of the stuff that they were capable of, and knowing full well that they were more than just a VR or a support studio because they were huge. So seeing when I saw the announcement, I immediately texted two of the people that I'm friends with there, and I'm just like, um, what in the fuck? And they're just like, yeah, we've been trying to keep this, but the studio is becoming PlayStation really, really, really soon. Well, the deal hadn't closed at that particular time when the announcement was made, but they're like saying, yeah, the deal was in the works since November 2020. So, um, you know, it's been exciting for me
Bro,
as a
like
fan of them.
it
And
it's crazy. It's crazy that like we're seeing literally your dream come true happen right before our eyes. it's
it won't
it's
be a dream
it's
come
wonderful,
true
man.
until I'm hired.
Yeah,
It
true,
won't be a
true.
dream come
But
true until I'm hired,
to
but even
experience this
still.
journey with you, bro, is so exciting. And um, hats off to FireSprite. Like Sony, they know talent when they see it, and I'm sure you'll get. I'm sure you'll get there, bro. I'm sure you certainly deserve it. And the fact that you're a
One way or another, I'm gonna get there, bro. Like,
yeah yeah
uh,
you won't give up, and I'm pretty sure they'll know that you're a relentless force of talent. But I mean, you're a
uh,
narrative writer, correct? You've done work yourself. You've written out thousands and thousands and thousands of pages of ideas um, and kind
yeah,
of your own work on
yeah,
concepts.
yeah. So I've done, like I said, I've done, what's the word I'm looking for? Contracted work for smaller studios. I worked with other smaller teams, not necessarily just for portfolio purposes, but also just because, you that's how you gotta have your hands in a whole lot of things. The gaming industry is highly competitive, and it it asks of you to be diligent. So, yeah, I went to school. I went to college for video game design, and the design process of how to assemble game concepts and document mechanics, and then um, work collaboratively with the writing team and other artists to take those documents that a game designer does, and transform them through code, and through art to become the game play that you would normally see play out when you pick up the controller. That's been a fun thing, and that's where my expertise is, along with writing. You know, those are some of my favorite things, and where I really lean myself into. Anybody will tell you that I'm a massive fan, and I'm very critical of game stories and
Mm.
narrative building, and whatnot. So, like, where people might like some things and enjoy a certain aspect of it, I will scrutinize the shit out of its writing, because um, I'm a wholehearted believer that, like, the best games for me anyway, are the ones that have the strongest stories, and a
Facts.
marriage of gameplay, um, with story. And that's something that anybody who is a fan of PlayStation should be very, very excited for one of their projects. For FireSprite anyway. Um, so more, yeah,
So
more teases, more hype, all of that shit.
this is a
I'm
little
going
bit of a
to.
deflection off the off topic, but that we'll turn it back around and get back on it in a second. But I've always wanted to ask you, what's your thoughts about the Order 1886? And
So
yeah, just I'd love to hear it.
so that was a game I that was a game I that was very much my cup of tea, in terms of how, well, their, how do I want to say it? That game was a very early PlayStation 4 game, everybody knows, with very controversial, controversial, I want to say, what is it? Controversial history around it, so to speak. I wouldn't even say history, but just reception. Um, the it was your standard cover-based third-person shooter, with some really solid mechanics. It was quite polished, and the story, the story itself, um, most people attacked it for its length and less about the actual content
I
of
tell you,
what it is.
it's that still annoys me to this day. So many games
Yeah.
are shorter than the Order. The Order is a perfect to me. The Order was a perfect like it. It was just such an awesome experience. I was left wanting the sequel, but
Yeah,
I
yeah.
wasn't left frustrated that it was too short. Do you know what I mean?
Right. No, it's a game that definitely could have used a little bit more time with its story, but like I'm also happy that the focus that they were razor focused on telling this very compact, I wouldn't even say compact, but this very well-paced story that hit the right crescendos at the right moment and moved and funneled the character from one location to the next, and its mysteries unraveled. Um, yeah, its mysteries unraveled quite organically, and it didn't overstay its welcome. Um, you know, and it was also unapologetic about what it was, which, like I said, was a just a briskly moving third-person action cover-based shooter that for all intents and purposes, uh, for me, hit the mark. Um, it hit the mark
I
with a
couldn't
lot of
agree.
things.
I couldn't agree more.
I don't believe I don't really see. I mean, I'm not a game critic, so to speak, right? So like, I don't know the thoughts that goes through some of the game industry journalists, but it's
Bro, don't get me started.
yeah, it's very early. You could very much see you can very much see when there's an agenda
Oh
for
mate, I could woolly run all freaking day and go ham on their asses about this
yeah.
hypocrisy and clear as day kind of bias that,
Hmm.
and when I say bias I don't mean I've not got my tinfoil hat on saying everybody's getting shield money, although that, I mean, if you don't think Microsoft does that shit, then I don't know what to tell you, but regardless,
Oh, sure. I'm not gonna say where and what because like
yeah.
developer like influencers are a part of every influencing is a part of
It's a form
every
of
industry.
advertisement now, isn't it?
Yeah, right. It is. Influencing is a very much is a part of everything, and like every company with a product is going to
Yeah.
incentivize their product, and they're going to spend and give people stuff because they need word to come out, and we
Hmm.
could argue about the necessity of it or if it being shady or whatnot, and like that's a different argument, but um you know uh you could definitely tell when there is though an agenda for some things, and because the industry, when there's an agenda, the industry, everybody in the games industry talk to each other. They will see each other through, especially in game journalism, especially. They see each other through, they communicate through the grapevine. They're all friends one way or another. And they talk on different social medias and they network with each other because so you'll find out where um, once something starts to gain a certain sense of notoriety for whatever reasons, people will look into and dig in, and a narrative will start to form. And that's kind of just how the industry in and of itself works. And games journalism very much is a part of that in how they approach. And for, I hate to say it, but like, that is the detriment to a lot of studios. being first timers and whatnot with big things. So like, um, there, very early on when the order was introduced, people were just like, "Oh, werewolves," and then that was pretty cool and whatnot. And then when people found out that it was um, a third person cover based shooter, then it became, oh, it's a Gears of War clone or an Uncharted wannabe.
Yeah, bro.
And that's because there was this focus. And the reason why that came up was because I remember the one of the lead programmers on there or on that game um, was saying that they were conducting research on the most popular um, on the most popular third person action games that were out, and one of them was Uncharted, and another was Gears of War, and they showed a book. He had made a tweet about the book that he was reading about breaking down and distilling third person combat to its core so you could find what clicks and what connects. And when I tell you that, when I saw that, people were flying off the handle that they were just trying to ape and whatnot, and there were people saying that the PlayStation 4 has its new Uncharted, and and it doesn't look like, and it looks like an Uncharted Light kind of affair, and I'm just like, oh, this is where they're going with this shit, and I'm just like saying this game is gonna get um, caught up in a fervor or mixed fervor for whatever, and I don't think that's fair. And that's exactly what happened. Um,
It was
too many
rocked, bro.
times too many times do video games try to stake their claim on, come out for their very debut game. They're excited to show something, whether it be their very first title or their first AAA title. And they take creative twists, or maybe they don't even do just creative twists, but they take what's tried and true and they hone down on it and make sure that they're not trying to invent the wheel, but make sure that whatever they have can stand alongside those tried and true mechanisms that work. And you know the industry professionals and the journalism scene, they have their own biases, and they bring those biases and objectivities into their their writing, their views, and that sometimes dooms the existence of games. Um, you know, and that's literally what happened with a solid, very enjoyable game like The Order 1886, which, for all intents and purposes, was written as a franchise, and you know, um, the powers that be, listen to the critics, because Metacritic is the deciding factor in a lot of games' longevity. And if it's not scoring within the 80s and up, chances are that you're not gonna get a sequel to those stuff. Like, um, it was a pretty interesting thing. There was a reviewer at IGN a long time ago, reviewed Dante's Inferno and gave it a 7,
Yeah,
um, but was very much harsh with the stuff. And
because he
when they
was no
met,
doubt inevitably comparing it to God of War, right?
yep, they were. They were. They called it God of War Light, but they said that what's there is fun, and the absolve, and the purify, or whatever um, mechanics that they had was really cool, and they'd love to see it flesh out. And EA literally didn't greenlight the second game in that series, even though it was written to be a thing. And I remember there was this discourse that was talking about why games don't get sequels and whatnot. And one of the guys from Visceral said, oh, he was speaking with one of the IGN reporters, about Dante's Inferno, about the development, and when he mentioned that, the reviewer said, "Oh, yeah, I love that. I enjoyed that game. Why didn't it get a sequel?" And the dude literally looked him in the face and said, "Dude, you gave it a 7. Nobody wants a 7 and think that they're gonna get a sequel." And
Holy
literally,
shit.
the guy said, EA said if we ever got 7s, if the aggregate score was below 80, we weren't getting a sequel. And literally, that was what it was. And the guy said, "Oh shit, I didn't know." And that's literally just it. And it's like it's a tricky, intrepid thing, right? Because um, you want them to be honest, you want them to enjoy the game, and you hope the game that you put out is great. But like, um, there's this harsh reality, especially now when video game budgets are 50 to 150 to even 500 million, you know, 500 million pounds or 500 million dollars in budget. um, you can't, even if a game becomes critically successful, no, not critically, commercially successful, um, the means to invest in those things, um, when they're not getting 80s or 90s, becomes very, very, very much a critical and laborious talking point when they're in meetings and whatnot. And like, they're just people just aren't out to make crap anymore. The budget is just ballooning too much. And what used to be considered as a safe bet, uh, when a game's budget used to be 10 million or 20 million and whatnot, and you get a 7, and you could convince them and say, okay, the structure is there. There are things that's here. We can move things up now, taking on fan feedback and whatnot from a 7 and moving it into an 8 or a 9. Those
Hmm.
kind of conversations used to happen. They can't happen anymore because the budgets of these games are far too large, and they can't risk a game being scored a 7 and then people remember it being scored a 7 and say,
See, games like Days Gone and The Order are proof of the fact that retrospective is great, as it does games that are slated at the start justice when they are later respected and appreciated for what they actually did really well, despite the trending
mm-hmm.
narrative at the time. But it's also bittersweet because it does expose the fact that the industry's kind of shit in um, how shallow and fickle journalism and gaming related media can be towards games, to the point where it's like a going into a lion's den. It can be really ruthless and very contradictory and very hypocritical. And
Oh yeah,
games
oh yeah,
aren't done justice that deserve so much more than the shit that they get.
yeah, yeah. Agreed, agreed.
It's interesting now. I was watching. I'm still watching it. I've not watched all of it yet. But David Jaffe's interview with Garvin and Ross.
Right.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and they're debunking so much shit, bro. It's amazing. Like he said to Jaffe, this isn't the Sony hate. This isn't going to be the Bash Sony podcast. And they've done so much for us. And we had 8 years of development and 8 years of we were sick of the game. We just wanted to get it out. It wasn't that we weren't allowed to delay it. If we had asked for another 4 months, they would have given it us, but we didn't ask because we didn't want to. We not only respected the fact that they'd put tens of millions into marketing, but as well as that, as well as us not wanting that to be a waste, we thought the game was ready. We thought it was ready, and the game's never going to be perfect. You could make changes for forever, and it will never be perfect. But I honestly thought it was playable, and it was in a good state to launch. And yeah, it launched buggy and a buggy mess. But even if I knew that in hindsight, I would have still launched it. I wouldn't have delayed it. And because David asked him, do you think the game would have done well if you had delayed it? And he went, well, that's the thing, Jaffe. The game has done well. The game's done extremely well. But that's just not the trending narrative. That's not the way what the media wants you to think.
Right. No, it's the truth. It's the truth. Days Gone, Days Gone sold quite well. Uh,
8.5
it
million so
had
far, bro. Well, more probably more
more,
than
more
that.
than that, more than that, more than that. It's close. It's probably a 10 million seller right now.
Probably
So
10
like,
to 11 million. Yeah.
yeah, it's a very lucrative IP. And people. I mean, sure, the game got discounted. The game got discounted. But almost every game, like I said, people were like saying, "Oh, it's 8 million at served at discounted prices and whatnot." I'm just like, that doesn't matter. It's still 8 million units. It's still a commercially successful game.
And the people saying that
It
shit are advocates of Game Pass. Which, yeah, it's just like, you haven't got a you can't say shit like, oh, it hasn't sold 8 million at full price though. Whilst it
no game, very few games sell that much at full price.
facts.
Very few. Very, very freaking few games sell that much. As a matter of fact, the only games that are doing that are your FIFAs, your Maddens, your um, your Grand Theft Autos, your Red Dead Redemptions, your Forzas ain't doing that, believe it or not. Your Halos are not doing that. Your Last of Us's aren't doing that. Your Last of Us is doing half of that in over the course. But like those mega franchises and stuff like those that serve on those that serves up those big numbers, those are far and few between. And sometimes they have to go through extra content and be re-released to get those kind of profits and whatnot. So like people will say, well, Days Gone was discounted and whatnot, but I'm just like saying, Returnal, Returnal came out in April, and by September, it got its first. By September, it got its first official price cut. So like The Last of Us came out in June, and by September, it got its first price cut. Um, the same thing with Ghost of Tsushima when it came out in July and got its first price cut. Like there's a trajectory and whatnot with these things, and like games trend and whatnot, and they when they dip in price, they also ignite another sale for people, an opportunity for other people who are waiting on the fence to double dip because, believe it or not, people act like $70 is a big fucking deal, but so is $60, and you know,
Hmm.
um, so like there people will pay for whatever they think is quality whenever they're ready for it and when it's worth it. Um, and uh, Days Gone has been a steady trending thing. And Days Gone for whatever for like that's a game for me that um I wouldn't have rated so harshly. Um, I don't think it's the most perfect game, and I had a rant on Twitter about how I scrutinize everything, and I scrutinize its narrative for based on the fact that there was no writing team.
By the way, I'm
Garvin,
sorry, guys. For whatever reason, my internet is bugging out tonight, and videos just aren't seeming to load on YouTube properly. I don't know what's going on here. I apologize for the buffering, but yeah, it's just not budging, and I have easily the bandwidth to play this in 1080p. So I don't know what's going on. Can you guys still hear me though? Like, the audio's still good. I'm pretty sure everything's still working fine. Yeah, I can see. Yeah, my voice is still appearing and stuff. Apologies. Carry on. Sorry, Deezy.
but yeah, my reasons for criticizing Days Gone in that rant that I said, it's like for me, I was far more interested after playing the game. I realized that I was far more interested in the concepts that Days Gone was about versus the actual execution of all those things. Um, and that's because I recognized that there were just some things that seemed like they would have worked a lot better if it was released during the PlayStation 3 era. And then I realized, and I'm just like, well, holy shit. The entirety of the PlayStation 3 era, there was absolutely no no launch of you know they did stuff on the Vita, so they were busy on that, but like they never had a full-blown AAA title out during the PlayStation 3 era.
Yeah.
Um, they were working with smaller budgets. They'd done PSP titles with excellent stuff. Like Bend is talented as fuck. Like Resistance Retribution is one of my all-time favorite games. Golden Abyss on Vita was fantastic.
Yeah,
Um,
I still can't believe. There's one thing I wanna just say about Sony Bend Studios, right? They are
yeah.
so understated in their technical prowess with visuals.
Yeah.
What they've
Hmm.
been able to dish out on the hardware they've got with third-party engines as well at times, like with the
Hmm.
Unreal Engine, but also with the Golden Abyss. I don't know what the engine they used. Did they use the Naughty Dog engine or Unreal? Probably Unreal, I would imagine. But regardless, the visuals that they've been able to put out, like with Uncharted on the Vita and also Days Gone. Days Gone to this day has some of the best environmental graphics I've ever seen in video games.
Oh yeah,
Even on the base
they're
PS4, the LOD, the level of detail and fidelity of the textures, they have high resolution textures on trees. They've got crazy levels of detail on the ground. Even a log like is super high res, and they've got this beautiful way of rendering the objects. Like they look so photogenic and picturesque. It's like
hmm
one of the best photo mode games you can play, like for photo mode. Days
I
Gone.
agree. I agree. Days Gone is it's a visual. It really stands up there.
It's a masterpiece. It's a powerhouse, bro. Visual
Yeah, it
powerhouse.
stands. Yeah, it was definitely a visual and technical powerhouse with everything that they were able to achieve. Those visual. It was an Unreal Engine 4 game that did not look like an Unreal Engine 4 game.
Yeah, it really doesn't. They've
Cool.
been able to work magic with that engine.
Yeah, yeah. Um, and it's so like for me, it the whole everything that was surrounding that surrounded Days Gone, and it coming back. The first time we heard that they weren't getting a thing was back in 2021, and we're back with this thing again and whatnot, and it's trending and whatnot, and like um for me, uh I personally think the game deserves a sequel, because it sold more than enough. They recouped. The game is profitable. Like, people might say, I remember somebody was saying, well, it was delayed. There was a budget in there. There was a budget that they probably blew over and whatnot, and it sold that all before it went to PC, and it wasn't at full price and whatnot, but like the profit margins must have been. I'm just like, no, they recouped most of their profit within the first 2 months when it was selling
But
at full
I
price.
remember there was bit of a player's revolt against the media with this game. The media was slating it, but there was like this almost like a Days Gone movement on Twitter and on just on different social media forums where people were loving the game and posting amazing screenshots and saying this game is getting dog walked and it doesn't deserve it. It's amazing. Why did these reviewers ever play the the patch one day one patch version? Because I'm not experiencing half of the issues that these reviews are claiming to have experienced, and even to this day, John Garvin is convinced that many of these reviewers didn't really play the game. It's a huge shame. But yeah, Gadget makes a great point in the chat. Shout out to you, Gadget. Don't forget Woolley. Over 100 people, just over 100 people at Sony Bend made the game. It is a smaller studio, and it took them twice as long to make it. But they had half the manpower.
I wouldn't even say it was half the manpower, because the Order 1886 was also a very small. There were 70 people that made it. And the new IPs take time to work on and everything like that. So it all goes back to what I was saying in my rant. I think, had this game come out in 2005, 2006, no, had this game come out during the PlayStation 3 era, they would have had far more experience in being something far more versed with it, because their production, the way the game was produced was almost very 2000 era
Well,
style.
you make a great point. It's because they started development in 2012, and they said, it's a 2012 game design, so things felt very archaic by the time. It's hard to keep a game modernized when it takes a long time to develop. It's a struggle.
Yeah. So like the game design paradigms that they've been on was from a different decade, and it just kind of, I think the industry moved forward a little bit, and left them behind, so to speak, in terms of some of the things that they were looking to do. And it's a shame, but like, this game sold 8 million in 10 months. 8 million. 8 million units in 10 months. It recouped its dev cost in the first 2 or 3 months, and then began doing profit. Benji Sales was documenting the trajectory of it, because he was reaching out to people. He had like sales estimates based on the people who he had contacts with, and he was able to verify that the game had sold quite well, and that it's just very strange that Sony wouldn't speak on it. And the reason being was because the game critically was in the yellow. And yeah, and like I said, when your budget is that large, and you put something out, and you're known for story, and you're known for groundbreaking story, or really, really, really good stories, that 80 plus Metacritic is going to be what saves you, right? Ghost of Tsushima came out and got an 283 when it was all said and done, and then they got a chance, they were profitable and whatnot, but that also resonated quite well with the people, with the fan base. And it sold, and they were given the opportunity to go back and improve things, and the director's cut is them honing in on those things and whatnot, and it's now at an 87 or 89, so it's done better. So it just goes to show you, like, both of those things have the same kind of trajectory, but the only thing that was different is the fact that Days Gone settled at a 71 or a 72, and everything else depends on that. When your budget is that big and whatnot, and there was a very much big media agenda. Like, I saw some of the shit that they were saying about this game and criticize. Like, okay, fine, you could criticize the riding. Ride me as much as you want to ride. Ride me as long as you promise to ride me like you ride your bike. I mean, that's a little but whatever.
Yeah, that was. I think the delivery was cheesy as fuck.
Yeah,
It was really really poorly worded and just really cringe in how she said
yeah,
it. But the
yeah,
whole woke narrative that it was misogynistic and shit. I just think
yeah,
that all that bullshit. I think is just a load
yeah,
of
yeah. Very much
trash and
so.
a load of crap.
Very much
I mean,
so.
fuck
Very
me.
much so.
We're all for powerful women, right? But God forbid they have a libido, and you know what I mean. It's like, is this where we're going now? or,
Yeah, yeah,
or God forbid a
absolutely.
woman's bi. Don't she has to be
Yeah,
lesbian, not bi? It's like the shit
right.
that these
Yeah,
writers
yeah,
got.
yeah.
Ugh.
I definitely agree. I definitely agree, man. And that's the problem with a lot of the reviews and the thing is like when there is an agenda,
Hmm.
they they have this agenda that they want to form. They leave their journalistic integrity
They go
out.
Venom as well. They go real Venom. Like they start it off.
Yeah,
Days
yeah, yeah.
Gone is a misogynistic piece of old bygone era uh, kind of propaganda that rather than a game. It's like literally
Yeah. And
if
I'm just like, motherfuckers, just play the game, bro.
facts.
Like, game, play the game, criticize this. You know what? Play the game because I played the same game that they claim they played, and like, I don't get the venom that surrounds it. What I can understand is that for me anyway, narratively speaking, this was one of the weaker
Hmm.
narrative heavy Sony
It
games,
was
and
really
like,
underwhelming when he found Sarah. Like when he found her
yeah,
and they saw each other for the first time, I was like, that entire build up. Like there was that bit where he's at the grave and it was raining and he was like
mm,
talking to a grave, and I was choking up. It was like there were moments of greatness
yeah,
in the story,
yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
when he's
Yeah,
riding the bike.
they got some really really good moments, but like then the delivery of some of these things
And then they
were
let it
just
down, yeah,
like,
big time.
yeah, the delivery of some of those things were just like, okay, that fell flat, and I'm just like, all right, and then yeah, so like the story was just weak and all over the place for me, and I could not get behind the story, so to speak, because of um just how rigid it was and uneven. It had strong moments and it had weaker moments, and those weaker moments for me was what took the story down.
Big
Uh,
facts.
like so, like when people say, "Oh, Days Gone was this brilliant," I'm just like, hold up now, hold
Yeah,
up.
yeah, yeah. There were clear
The game is
flaws.
decent. The game is decent. The game is decent. The gameplay is tried and true. The gameplay borrows a lot of things from other popular Sony games, and it does them quite well. The gameplay carries the game from beginning to end.
The
The freakers,
motorbike carries the game.
yeah, the
That is a
motorbike, the freakers,
one bit really kind of
like the
implemented.
motorbike. Exactly, the mechanics and everything, the tension
The
that you
feel,
feel
yeah,
when your bike breaks down and suddenly you're worrying if you're gonna run into wolves, you're worried if you're gonna run into cougars, you're worried if you're gonna run into freakers that will quickly overwhelm you, or you could be doing something silly, thinking that you got this, and then suddenly you stumble across
very
a
clever.
freaker next to a horde, huh?
It's very clever, very cleverly
You, you know,
implemented.
so like the systems that they had to, where they said this world comes for you really was fucking well done. Like the game was riveting on those ends, but like the narrative beats and the different uneven story pacings and whatnot, I was just like, I'm not really buying a whole lot of this. And for me, that was what sucked about the game for
Yeah,
me. And it is not this hallmark of narrative excellence that some people are trying to make it
yeah.
out to be,
I've
because
100% agree with you. 100%.
because they feel like because they feel like the game should have gotten a sequel. It should have, because it's sold well, and the groundwork for becoming better was there, right? Um, but like this is something to say that when your game is a story-driven game, you can't have one fucking writer. And Garvin was the writer.
Yeah,
He
honestly,
wrote
like I see John Garvin all over that. The script.
100%. He was the writer. He and like if you listen to him talk, that's his baby. He was passionate about it. Like he bumped
He
heads
literally
with
said
people
on
who were
his first interview was, "That was all me. That was me. I did that. That was all me." when he was
like
talking to David
people.
Jaffe, he was so proud.
Like, he was proud and like, look, I'm all for it, man. You write something when you write something that massive, that's a whole lot of lines of dialogue and stuff.
Yeah,
But like,
you can get stuck in your own head, and you can
you get
lose
right.
kind of that fresh perspective that you need
Exactly. And like
to
this is why it's
fix.
important to like it's why it's important and why I believe that any person who's getting into writing, um, they also should not be afraid to take criticism. And
Big
he was
big
very
facts.
much yeah, he was very much against the criticism. And like he even said it, the old guard, which is him, bumped heads frequently with the new people who were coming in, and he just would not. He had a set story that he was married to telling, and that's admirable. But like, you also need a writing team.
Hmm.
You need a writing team. Like the best narratives have a lead writer or two or three lead writers and like maybe two or three more supportive writers who give flavor text and are able to interpret things and you know speak on the delivery. Like there's just no way I personally I wouldn't write. I wouldn't think like, let me just write this line, let ride you like you ride a bike. Personally, I would never like. I would have looked at that. I'm
Yeah,
like,
that
come on.
it was the
I don't like.
worst, most awkward line. Like, it was just not natural. It was just not something
Yeah,
you would say.
yeah. And I was just like, I'm just like, come
I
on,
mean,
come
put
on.
it this way: if there
Like,
was like a The Last of Us style kind of sex scene, for example, where they were passionate for a second, and she said in dirty talk, "You're gonna ride me like you ride your bike," and
yeah,
that would have been natural, and that would have.
that would
But
have been natural, right?
for her
Yeah.
to say it like, "Just one thing, promise me
As a,
you'll fuck me all the time." You don't say that at your
as
wedding
like
vows.
a wedding vow too, at a wedding vow too. And I'm just like, I literally just when that line came out, I literally stopped. I put the controller down, and I was just like, Garvin,
Man,
what
not
the
like this.
fuck? I'm like, Garvin, what the fuck, bro? Um,
I swear down, he needed you as like to come in and just go, oh hell no, Garvin, come here. This shit, this is just no, it's cringe as
yeah, man.
fuck.
I was just feel like, nah, man, this ain't it. This ain't it, fam. This ain't it. Like, I get the whole biker thing, but like, that's a wedding vow. Come on, that just would, that whole scene just kind of took apart the whole narrative, and that summarized my entire feeling about how uneven the narrative can be because
It
like
was literally one guy wrote
there was
everything,
some really strong
critiqued
deliveries.
everything.
There's some really strong deliveries, but like he wrote the game,
Hmm.
he went back and did the rewrites for a few things, but like those were still variated versions of what he was rewriting and not a whole total thing where other people would have come in and made
Yeah.
suggestions.
See,
So I was
Deezy,
just
you
like,
know what? You know what I think? I think instead of being the guy that writes the story, writes the lines, the dialogue, and also like appraises his own work, he should have written concepts, plot points, all the
he
important shit,
needed
and had a diverse board of members to come
I
to the
yeah,
details to okay, so the concept is they're having wedding vows, they're saying the vows, and then Deacon's fiance to be, wife to be, Sarah, says something quite shocking um about and provocative in a sexual way. Right, guys, get to work. Figure out how to make it look natural, how to make it seem funny and witty and not forced. And
yeah, right.
and then they would have come up with something that maybe
But see,
worked, but
that's the whole thing about having a group of writers. Like people say, "Oh, Neil Druckmann ruined The Last of Us because he wrote all this shit." I'm like, Neil
bullshit.
was assisted by Kurt. Neil was assisted by Haley Grossman and somebody else. So there were four people who wrote that game,
Hmm.
who were the lead writers in that game, not just Neil. And then there were a total of like eight other subordinate writers, a part of the narrative team. And then in addition to the narrative team, you had narrative directors and stuff like that that were just there to comb through and discard shit that does not make sense and see things that make sense but wasn't written organically and just say, let's redo this shit. And that's kind of just how the way things should be when you're working on a 30-hour open world, um, 30-hour open world action game that is heavily, um, heavily, entrenched in what is Sony's penchant for third-person action narrative games.
Hey, listen,
Like,
I gotta just contend this The Last of Us 2 bashing going on in the chat right now, guys. I mean, it's all opinions at the end of the day, and I fully appreciate and understand preferences, but I gotta say, I freaking love the story of The Last of Us 2. There's one thing that I really dislike about it. It's the game doesn't give you the choice at the end, or like you can't as you're strangling Abby and she's drowning in the water, you don't want to you want to let go, you want to stop, and the game's not letting you, and but then it stops for you, and it kind of makes that choice. Whereas it would have been so much more impactful if you made that critical choice, because it makes you conflicted then, and it's like it really has power over you because
it would have been interesting to see how they give if they wrote organic two different organic endings to how Ellie could have dealt with, and one would have been spare Abby, one would have been don't spare Abby, and see how Ellie goes about it. And then most people, because they have this they have a very unnatural obsession with Joel should have lived, and the choices that he made just didn't make sense. And I'm just like, I disagree.
The game, I feel like the game didn't have confidence in its purpose of what it actually did very, very well, and that was make you grow to understand the nuance of these characters, that they're just humans and they're relatable, and they all have their reasons, and they all are struggling to deal with their outrage and their heartbreak, and trying to come to some kind of reconnect with their own humanity. And I mean, Abby reconnects with hers through Lev, and Abby reconnects through hers with hers through Joel, and through Abby, in fact, in a weird way. And that the whole point was like Ellie finally does what she couldn't do with Joel, and that's fully forgive and fully let go, and she didn't want to live with that dark cloud that was basically making her an awful fucking human being. And the way that it kind of all culminates at the end, if it had given you that decision, I think it would have been the most powerful moment in gaming storytelling history. But it just let me down in that it didn't. I would have spared Abby, but it would have been so much more impactful and powerful if I had spared Abby, because I'm Ellie. You know what I mean? And I've been through that story. So that was it. But in terms of the actual story, I mean, I don't know if Gadget's trolling or what, but I just think people are missing the point completely.
to segue into the Last of Us thing, like it is amazing how this game still evokes
Yeah.
such polar, such a polar and that's testament to its writing. That's
Hmm.
testament to the way that they've been able to deliver something that evocative. Um, and that is the sign of not terrible, not bad, just a story that you did not enjoy. And it wasn't because it was terrible, it was something you didn't enjoy because it didn't go the way that you were expecting it to, and that's
Yeah.
called subverting your expectations. Writers and creatives, we do everything to subvert your expectations. We don't want to play it safe. We don't want to give you the fan service. We're not doing stuff like that. There is enough of that out in the media. If you want the ride off into the sunshine. And then people will argue, well, we don't need a situation where we don't need a Last of Us 2 if this was what they were going to do. And I'm just like, you absolutely do need a Last of Us 2. I was one of those chief members who were like saying, nope, we don't need a Last of Us 2 because um, there's almost no way to top the first one because the first one ended on
I mean,
such
there's
a
no
way.
denying
And
it,
I'm just
bro. The
like,
Last of Us 2 left me depressed as fuck. But I mean,
it's
it was
supposed
still, yeah,
to.
it was incredible.
It
You
was
know,
supposed
I
to.
cried when she couldn't play the guitar anymore. I cried when she
Yeah.
couldn't. I've played guitar for 15 years, and when Ellie had, with a fight with Abby, had a finger bitten off, and now she couldn't even play the freaking guitar. She'd lost everything.
Guitar
She'd lost
the
Joel.
guitar that
She'd
she
lost the
got, the
guitar.
guitar she got from Joel.
Yeah, she
Exactly.
couldn't play the music anymore that he taught her. I mean, oh my days!
Like
Just
there was just so
it's
many
making me emotional
poetic
now, bro. It's
parallels.
like I'm
There was
actually
so
choking
much.
up right now.
There's so much parallel symbolism and paralleling that played itself out throughout the first game that
Yeah.
runs the second. Like, and people are just caught up. Oh, Joel shouldn't have died that way because Joel is this, and I'm like, also he's 5 years. Like this is 5 years in the thing. He's found a community. They've gone through a situation where they've had transient people come and go that they've gone attached to, and they're now in a system where they're capable of providing refuge for other people,
Hmm.
and they no longer have to be hunters. Like Joel even said it himself. There was a period of time where he was one of those hunters,
Hmm.
that used to ambush people. And in his old age, he's just turned up grizzled. Like
But people,
people will look and say the growth of Joel was just fantastic
yeah,
because the growth of Joel in the
he'd
first
learned
game
to
was,
love again, bro. Like
yeah, he
he
learned
was
to love and
he
he
went
learned
from
to
this
let his guard down.
cold,
I'm like,
stone cold killer
even
to this man struggling with a very human and relatable thing, and that's
yeah,
dealing with not only with his own guilt but also
right,
trying to win the heart of the most important thing in his life, the one that saved him from the loss of his daughter, Sarah, and you know, Ellie had become a daughter to him, and he couldn't lose her. He couldn't lose her too, and he wasn't careless or reckless either. Like, I'm seeing all these narratives about Joel saying that he became a weak man who was reckless and carefree and gave away the location of the, you know, like when he was how he let himself get shot by Abby. And I was like, guys, you need to go back and replay that game. Because you have no idea at all about how the events actually unfolded. Joel never revealed his name at all. His brother did. His brother was the one that was careless. Joel was on guard. He was on guard, staring at everyone in that room except for the one that he fucking saved. Go figure. A young little girl that he just saved from a zombie horde, and from the infected. And so, like hell
like
would he think that
in
she
that
would be the threat?
who in that situation, like you have to ask yourself, who in that situation, after having just survived a whole fucking horde of infected people trying to maul your face off, and they lead you out of safety, or at least that's what you think, because you're in this whole situation, and who there would suddenly decide to start shooting and asking questions in a situation when you've just
Facts.
narrowly made it out of a
And
situation like that. Like,
Joel was like, this is fishy as fuck. This isn't. He was looking at the door. He was on guard. He didn't have his gun with him, so he was really freaking kind of. He looked so uncomfortable, and so
yeah,
like uneasy.
but it was that was after the situation of like that was after the fact that when he realized it's like, why are you guys looking at us like you know us or something?
Yeah,
And then
he
and
was
it was
sussing it
just
out,
like,
and his brother would
yeah,
just his
literally
brother
sussing it
was
out. But like, yeah, it's it was just it's a very organic way of how things played itself out. Like,
very believable way.
I've played that game 3 times in 3 different things because the first time I played it and beat the game, I literally took 2 months to go over and come to terms with the fuck of what I played because that shit hit
Man,
me in
bro.
so many ways.
I'm
So
still.
many
I
ways.
was just on the verge of tears telling you about her not being able to play the guitar. Like I was. I had a tear. Like I was fighting, choking up, and crying on the mic.
Like,
It's still raw, bro. There's so much to that game.
oh man, like there is like the way each of those characters were so well delivered, and it sends home the performances even more. Like people are just upset Joel got beat with a golf club, and they're still gonna harp on that because my Joel died, and I'm like, come on, everybody's Joel died. It's not just yours. Everybody loved Joel because of they saw the character growth and they saw the character growth that he was. Like
I've never heard something as
more
stupid as
people
this. Right? Somebody wrote they forced me to like Abby.
force anything. Like you literally liked Abby because Abby went on a redemption path and that was her trajectory. How boring would the game be if Abby went through with killing Joel and was still this shitty person who was still on her same killing machine, out for revenge, continuously brooding over not being able to come out from the darkness that she did. Like literally, she went to the dark place that
Exactly.
Joel went to and was able to pull herself back out of it by finding something else to live for and for forgiving herself, even after seeing all her friends get murdered by Ellie,
Yeah.
or learning that all her friends got murdered
And
by
God
Ellie.
forbid Abby's
Like,
an actually likable person. I mean,
like,
the way that they
God
sound is like they end up
God
liking her, but
forbid
hate the
you
fact
are
that they like
in,
her.
like, why would you hate the fact that you went to these dark places with a character you started off hating their guts because they murdered somebody you were close to? And then through the course of 3 days, 3 fictional days, or four, I think, 3 or 4 fictional days throughout that story, 72 hours of going through the worst, coming face to face with different near insurmountable things to save people, and rediscover that you're also a human being who made terrible decisions and terrible choices, and you have the opportunity to heal yourself. Why wouldn't you root for that character?
Mm-hmm.
Why wouldn't you? Like that just doesn't make any kind of sense to me. Like, why do you want to continually hate that person just because they took Joel? Like, in the world that The Last of Us is, there are choices that these characters are continuously making that they never think will come back to haunt them because they're just survivors. There is
Mm-hmm.
no evil, there is no good. There are just shitty people in shitty situations going about trying to live and live to see the next day. And sooner or later, whatever it is, it's going to catch up to you. And you never know that somebody in a world full of pandemic, in a post-apocalyptic thing with other shit that could kill you, is going to plot a thing for revenge and actually succeed on that. Like,
Big facts.
so
Um,
like, yeah, man, I don't agree with anybody who wants to say that The Last of Us is poorly written because so and so died and the characterization that they made for Joel just doesn't make sense. And I'm just like, it does. Did you play The Last of Us? Did you see how he's grown? Like, by the end of the game, that man is more aloof. That man trades places. He's far more hopeful. He's far more um, he's far more in tune with feeling for Abby, not for Abby, for Ellie. And by the time the game wraps up, Ellie is the one who's conflicted. She's the one that's guarded. She's the one that wanted to have the choice to sacrifice herself to feed, so to save people, and that choice is robbed of her, and she wakes up thinking that she was supposed to be dead, and she finds out that she's alive, and somebody who betrayed the mission that she was gearing herself up to be, the sacrificial lamb that saved everybody, is now robbed of that, and she becomes more like Joel after killing brutally killing somebody that was trying to rape her and eat her after that. Like, she fundamentally changes and became somebody that Joel was in the past, right?
Yeah.
Like, that meeting that run-in experience or encounter she had with David, that fundamentally changed her. And like, from that moment, she became so much of a different character at that point.
She basically hated people after that point.
Yeah,
he'd already taken her innocence away from her, even though he hadn't got to that point.
Yeah, she saw the darkness in people and realized that if she's going to have to survive, she's now having to do that. And can you imagine killing somebody that brutally, having that kind of uncontrolled rage that brutally? To kill somebody when you're what, 13, 14? She was 14 years old at that point, because she's 19 when the game opens up, when the second game opens up. So could you fundamentally have that thing where you get bitten and your outlook on the world and everything is the mystery of how the old world used to be, and all you know is that people are brutal, but you've never had to really defend yourself in that kind of position. And you change because somebody's trying to rape you and somebody's also trying to feed you, and you're left with the impossible choice that the only way you're going to survive is to brutally murder this person. And that's literally what happened. And her character arc changed at that point. That was where the two of them swapped positions in their roles and whatnot. In terms of their character growth.
That's a very, very well thought out level of nuance that you've kind of come to,
bro. That's the thing about writing.
Yeah,
that's
bro, I love that.
No,
like 100%.
So like people, y'all need to go back and play and pay attention to the subtleties and the nuances and the delivery of everything, because this game, to make a game like The Last of Us 2, to attempt to do that, you have to go back and play, and to write a story that's as complex and ever evolving, like The Last of Us Part 2, you have to have played and understood and digested and really sat hard and long to think about how you're going to deliver something that's just as impactful, just as meaningful, even if it doesn't pan out to be what you may consider how you would have had things going. But like, each of those characters in part 2 was respected, and each of those characters that was
by the way, Brian King hits a good point. I just want to echo. He puts where's his message? I honestly felt nothing for her and for Ellie too by the end. I just kind of felt empty after it all. Maybe that's the power of the game, that it makes you feel so different after you finish it. And you know what, Brian? I fully can relate to that. It didn't leave me feeling empty. It left me feeling very sad. It left me feeling a huge sense of loss. And a huge sense of sorrow for the mess that Ellie has got herself into and her life into now, because of the decision she made to try and get revenge. And yeah, it kind of, you know, I fully understand that it's a very excuse me,
Dark
I'm
game,
yawning.
bro.
Yeah, it's a very
It's a
dark
heavy
game,
game.
and it's not, you know, when people say Joel shouldn't have died, and my question is why? Why shouldn't Joel have died? I mean, because he's my favorite character. I mean, that's not set in reality. Whereas
Right?
this game is trying to put you in a way that is basically humans, that they're not good people. They're just people with their own reasons. They have a heart. They have compassion, but they also view other people who have a heart and have compassion too as just worthy of death and just shoot. I mean, just shoot them. You know, so kind of you come to know all these different people that end up being dead around you by your feet, realizing that before you knew those people, they were just NPCs that you were shooting and killing as Ellie. And then you realize that these people have depth, have a life, have a story, and you killed them heartlessly, just like it was nothing. And that makes you realize as well that that's all Joel was to Abby.
Yep.
And if it takes away your sense of justification, and your sense of kind of there's protagonists and antagonists, there's heroes and villains, and it takes that away, then I'd say that game has achieved its purpose. Because the rightmanship of that game that's the point. That was the entire point of this story arc. Wait, what's going? Yeah, I knew it when Ashley spoke at PSX. Brian King only think it should have happened end of game, so you can see Abby's story. Joel was a bad dude. He did bad things regardless of reason. One of them was going to catch up with him. Yeah, facts. What I got from the story: when you're fighting in that world, there's no good or bad. Agreed, Gadget. There's no good or bad, mate. I mean,
Yep. There is no good or bad. There is only survival, which is you and each of these characters say something to that extent. The Fireflies were the ex-Fireflies when Abby became an ex-Firefly. Even then, they were saying something of endure and survive. The Scars were saying something to that line. All you need to do is make it to the next day. You have to survive.
Mm-hmm.
You have to survive. Like, you cannot tell me that you did not feel for Lev when Abby's people, as you said, those were your people, and they killed Yara. She's gone. Like, you had to have sympathized and understood what was going on.
Facts.
For Lev. So, like, it's the same kind of situation that Joel and Ellie were going through with other people and whatnot. Like, even Bill, who was all about surviving and not wanting to help, and was, out to kill Joel at one point. Like, come on, like, there's so many parallels to that, to see how nuanced and how much they paid attention to making sure that the characters that you would write would be people that you could level with on any level, because they've established the rules and the designating guidances of the world, that nobody is inherently evil.
Damn this game! It's forcing me to care. It's forcing me to relate and to understand characters and nuance. This is trash. I hate it.
Yep.
I want to touch back on for those who joined later on. Thank you so much. I mean, bloody hell, there's 82 people watching David Jaffe right now, and there's 26 watching me. I mean, I'm watching me and Deezy. That's crazy. I'm very
Shout out to y'all.
yeah, honestly, I'm blown away by the support that this channel's getting. Every podcast, people show up, they turn up, and it's awesome. For those who are late to arriving, we started the show off discussing FireSprite.
I just want to say just a real quick aside. I just want to say that look, I respect everybody's opinion, and I respect everybody's opinion on how they may feel about The Last of Us, even though I may disagree. So I'm not here to. I'm definitely not here to just say, oh, you guys aren't making any sense and shut the fuck up or anything like that. What I'm gonna say is when you say whatever it is that you feel about the game, you are going to get a very researched and nuanced and heartfelt rebuttal to it. And my rebuttal is not an attack on you, and our rebuttal is not an attack on your opinion. It is just a rebuttal to say that, well, you may feel that way, but consider this.
Exactly.
Consider this viewpoint. Consider this viewpoint. So I just want to let people know that, like, this is what's so great about the discourse surrounding this is like everybody's passionate about their stance in this. But even in the midst of all that passion, just be mindful that there are other viewpoints about this that are equally as valid as how you may feel, because this game is designed to evoke these kind of emotions. And if you feel that way, it's because the game does a very, very good job of leveling the playing field and not giving you the expectations of revenge, or not giving you the
that you feel you
simplicity
deserve.
Right.
It kind of robs you of what you feel almost entitled to. But then again, that kind of puts you in the same situation as Ellie. She lost Joel too. She was robbed.
Right.
You were robbed, you know? And whereas you couldn't forgive Abby, maybe after you know her story and you come to know her nuance and everything like that, maybe you could. I could. But I know a lot of people couldn't. They would have rather drowned Abby. But I found that scene mortifying. I found that whole bit playing out where you were drowning Abby, like,
it was just guttural.
I just kept saying
no, stop. Yeah, I just kept saying stop.
Yeah,
stop,
it was, mate. It was so hard. Like, some people might have relished that and loved it. I found it extremely uncomfortable. Like, I did not want to carry on. I was like, oh shit, is she gonna pull her out? Is she gonna let go? Please let go. Please let go. And yeah, like the desperation I felt for Abby at that moment, it kind of solidified. But then how the flashback of Joel was the thing that pulled her off. That it and for you to learn at the very end that Joel didn't die lonely and alone, and he didn't die feeling like he didn't love her, that like she didn't love him, that he got his daughter back kind of just before he
was able to die and see the one person that he would have done it all over again for. And that was when she realized that, hey,
let's watch a movie kind of thing. Yeah. No, big facts. And but you know, shout out to all of you in the chat who feel differently, and you know, I get it, but that is just, it's just such a powerful game, my dudes. And I'd love a like a Joel to live on in some way, because he's just an incredible character. But I felt I felt this loss for Joel when he was alive before he died, because he'd lost Ellie. He'd lost the trust. He'd lost her her dependence on him.
You know,
and he felt emasculated by that. He felt probably unloved and incredibly desperate because she is everything he has to live for. So altogether, it was an extremely kind of powerful game, and to this day, it's something that I will never forget. It's probably the third most, maybe even the second most. Is it the first most powerful game I've played? I don't even know. It's like between that and Death Stranding, it's close. And MGS4 when you're fighting your brother Liquid on top of Outer Haven, it's kind of it's close. All three to me are like amazing emotional experiences that kind of I'll never forget. Would love your just to recap for you guys who were late to the show. We spoke firstly about FireSprite Studios because Deezy's on a quest in his life, and we're all seeing it slowly but surely unfold. His goal to realize his dream of working for FireSprite, and he's getting close. He's just got his second interview around the corner now. For those who don't know, Deezy is a game developer, so he's currently at Fireslug Studios and working on a game I've played, and the combat in it is really fun, and can't wait for the final product to release on PlayStation. Day one purchase for sure, bro. But yeah, I'm just buzzing. I'm just buzzing for you, and I know it's not kind of solidified as yet, but with your credentials and your passion, and I'm pretty sure you'll be absolutely fine, my bro, and wish you every blessing, and I would say good luck, but you don't need it because you've got the talent. But that's awesome.
Also, yesterday was Woolley's birthday, so if you missed that, wish him a happy belated.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
I'm pretty fond of him. Most people will know I'm pretty fond of Woolley, but also because he shares the same birth. Well, his birthday is a day before my younger brother's birthday, so there's a little bit of. Today's my younger brother's, my biological brother's birthday, and he's 33. So, yeah, I'm pretty fond of Woolley in a lot of ways because I do look at him as my younger brother in a lot of ways.
Oh man, that means a lot. Shit. Well, you know what's weird, bro? My older brother, Kristen, his name is. He's 9th of January. So it goes my birthday, your little brother's birthday, and then my big brother's birthday, all in a trilogy.
That's cool.
Yeah. I just want to see if Wolfaki is in the chat still, and if he's listening in, if he can respond, because I've got a little bit of a surprise for him. So we'll see if he responds. But yeah, no, that's awesome, bro, and thank you. It means a lot. People saw this video of me on Twitter where my missus bought me a birthday cake, a complete surprise, and she lit the candles and filmed it, and I walked in, and it was a flipping Xbox controller to see my reaction, and then I did a commemorative. I did Kid Smooth a little tribute because it was like literally cost like $2.99 or something. It was like a really poorly made cake with Xbox, like the buttons were like misplaced and shit like that, and it had a monobrow as bumpers. Which is hilarious. So I was able to do a kids move, and I punched it like 3 times, like kids move does in that famous clip, in that infamous clip. And I literally I punched it in the same pose and everything as kids move. So I thought I'd kind of pay him a little tribute. But yeah, it was a hilarious video. And thank you to my darling wife to be. We get married in 7 days. So. And I see you, bro. I get to see you. I'm so excited to meet you and your husband for the first time in the flesh.
I'll be coming to Manchester just for that wedding.
I'm so honored, bro. And I can't tell you, bro. Honestly, I'm so like stoked and touched and excited as fuck to finally meet you, bro. I'm buzzing. I'm buzzing that you're coming, and extremely honored and grateful that you'll be there. One day, me, you, and OT will all of us will eventually all meet up. Wilhelm, we'll have to get the whole crew to meet one day, like somewhere, and spend a few days somewhere. It would be really cool. But it looks like Wolfaki isn't present right now. Basically, I've got him a little gift. He lives in Greece, and as you know, the Grecian climate at the moment is pretty terrible, and I don't mean the weather, I mean the financial climate, and it's a very difficult place to live right now. And COVID took Wolfaki's dad, his life, and he was the main provider. So Wolfaki's been, selling things and making ends meet. He's still got his PS5, but downgraded to a pretty poor TV and stuff, and just kind of struggling to make ends meet. And his brother sold his PlayStation a while back, and he's been kind of enjoying the PlayStation Plus service, but it times out. I think in a couple of days, so we'll have no more PlayStation Plus. And obviously, with financial priorities and stuff, it would be a significant amount of time before he can get it again. So I just wanted, Wolfaki, if you're listening, dude, you've got a year's PlayStation Plus to look forward to. So let me know. Just hit me up, and I'll send you a code for PlayStation Plus in your region.
That's the company of gamers magic going on, bruh.
We are for the gamers, bro.
Don't sleep on our podcast. Like, next episode, I forget which number it is. Is it 18 or 19?
Where the next episode is 21. Episode 21.
Oh, 21. So even I'm a little bit behind.
Yes, bro.
I'm a little bit behind on the numbers.
But I did a Christmas special, but it was kind of pretty ill prepared. With the wedding, it's been a really tough kind of few weeks of manic.
Even Christmas for me, I came down with COVID, so I wasn't able to join in for that Christmas special episode.
Yeah, there's a Christmas special episode. But I just did a post.
That was one of the reasons why I wasn't able to join. Why I wasn't able to chop it up with you guys like I normally would.
So this is a glimpse into the future right now. This thumbnail that you guys see here, this is going to be tomorrow's episode's main topics. Episode 21 of the Worldwide Company of Gamers podcast will be happening tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 9 p.m. UK. Prepare for an awesome episode. We have lots to talk about. We're going to be discussing Jeff Ross and what he said about Days Gone, but also I'm going to continue watching that David Jaffe interview. It is fire, guys. Shout out to David Jaffe, man. You just gotta love that guy. And his interview with Jeff Ross and John Garvin is essential listening material. You need to watch it, and it's just gold. And they debunk a lot of narratives and a lot of shit So definitely check that out. We'll be discussing all of that about Days Gone, because Days Gone is more successful right now than Ghost of Tsushima. Even though I know it's been out for longer, but still, it's critically understated how in terms of coverage and exposure, and it's not getting the recognition it deserves and the accolades. We'll be talking about a few key games. Everybody bringing their own game to the table. This one here.
If you guys want my take on Tales of Arise, don't miss tomorrow's episode.
Facts.
And I do recommend that game. I recommend that game. So like,
yeah, I'm loving it so far, bro, and it's so beautiful. I just can't believe how gorgeous the colors and the art style is. It's very Prince of Persia 2013. Very Prince of Persia.
Yeah, it's a very the cell shaded anime, and the cell shaded anime style of it is very much there. I have my critiques about it, and obviously that's going to be something about the writing. And as a game designer, it also talks about the stuff. But like, definitely play this game. I cannot recommend it enough. It is my essential RPG for the year. And I'm a big fan of RPGs, and I do like my Western. I do like my JRPGs and all their subcategories that they have. So like, this is it. This is, I've played two this year. I played two last year actually. I started this game last year, but the other game that I played was also from Namco Bandai, which was Scarlet Nexus, and that game is uneven narratively, but there are some things to like, and the combat and the music are my favorite aspects of that game. So like, if y'all want something to tide you over, I'd pick up Scarlet Nexus. You have two campaigns in that game, and the resolutions that eventually come out are okay. But like, the game is a decent game where the gameplay is king, even if the story can be a little bit uneven. So like, yeah, get my views on Tales tomorrow.
Big facts. That's going to be awesome. And yeah, sorry, just sorting this out. Why is it not in the default view? What's going on here? It's weird, sometimes my videos kind of they don't it's weird, like sometimes they're like spread out in like a widescreen mode, and sometimes they're in a default mode. It's weird. Anyway, I'm not speaking sense, I'll shut up. But you can see what I mean here. It's not in the corner of my screen anymore. Anyway, but yeah, definitely 100%. Guys, be sure to check out tomorrow's episode. It's going to be awesome. I've absolutely loved this chill and chat with you, Deezy, man, and we should do it more, because
we definitely should.
We get to talk more in depth about things without feeling the pressure of keeping it brief so that other people can speak. You're able to get to the nitty gritty a bit more sometimes. So this is kind of the purpose of the Hangout. For those who don't know, this is my secondary podcast, and it's the goal. The primary goal of this podcast is to basically give a voice to the listeners, to the the community who watch. If people want to come on and share their thoughts, but absolutely would always welcome that. And it's also to have just a bit more of a casual, but usually the best conversations happen by random. They're not planned or prepared, and you get to discuss things on a nitty gritty level. And just chilling with Deezy tonight, it's been absolute quality. Be sure to rewind if you missed the first half, because there was some absolute nuggets and gems regarding FireSprite. And it's crazy when you actually summarize our first ever episode of Company of Gamers. Was literally a huge part of it was Deezy telling us about upcoming games that we're not really ready for, that they're doing really unique, innovative and incredibly ambitious things in the gaming sphere. And Deezy was talking about a studio that he's known for and been a huge fan of for a long time that most people didn't even know existed, and that's FireSprite Studios. Now, it was 6 months or so after that episode that it was then announced that FireSprite were acquired by Sony. So we've seen this amazing journey of where Deezy's been telling us about upcoming things that we're not ready for. Suddenly, it takes on a whole new level because Sony have clearly seen these incredible things and gone, we need FireSprite as a first party. These things are that amazing, and what they're going to be delivering is that top tier that even Sony were like, yeah, before even the public have seen what you're working on, we'll acquire you. And now Deezy is in his second stage of interviews to work for them. I mean, it's just an incredible story arc, bro, and it's something that we will definitely have to celebrate on an episode of Company of Gamers down the line when
once it becomes public knowledge, if I get the job, because like I said, it is the industry in of itself is very much very competitive and talented, and I'm a junior in this thing. I consider myself a decent enough writer and an okay coder, and a pretty okay game designer with the concepts that I'm able to create and prepare. A lot of game design is proof of concepts, and a lot of game design is designing massive sprawls of documents and theorizing what it would look like before you even put a pen or a stylus to a computer screen or a sheet of paper and draw out what it is that you want. Game design is a lot of pen and paper and writing and over discussing theories, and then conceptualizing those things in art, and then in story, and then from that it goes into the proof of concept, which is the actual building of a vertical slice demo for pitching. And so like that process in game design is never done throughout the entirety of the project. Even when a game is about to launch, there are last minute things that a game designer will come and say, I think we could do this a little bit better. And that's how you get the feedback. And this is the game designers. The game designers are the ones who are reviewing stuff on Twitter and taking on everything from a public demo, so to speak, and saying, okay, this is the fan feedback. How are we going to get it done? And the game designers are the ones who take all that feedback. They go back to that drawing board or to that room, and they sit with key different members of every different department versus across art, across the writing team, across the narrative team, across the graphic designers, across the graphics programmers, and the coders who are going to be ultimately the ones to implement this, the animators as well. So like, that whole process is fun for me, and I enjoy it more when I get to write as well, because like if you've been listening to me, I scrutinize, and I'm a big fan of narrative games, storytelling games and whatnot, and so that's just kind of how these processes work. So like, yeah, man. Let's just say like there are a whole bunch of talented junior people out there too that are vying for these roles, and Yeah.
You're
If
also
I don't
extremely
get
modest, bro. But
well, if I don't get it with this, if I don't get it through these series of interviews, um, then there'll always be a second. There'll always be a second. But like people, like I've read a whole lot of stories on Twitter about on Portfolio Day when they have Portfolio Day, which is a day where artists and graphic designers and all these people show up there, all the things that they've worked on and everything. And, um, really what it boils down to is like they have a list when you're trying to get a job, you have to structure your CV and your portfolio in a way that is relevant to the game, not just the company, but the game that they're advertising for. So like
hello, are you there, bro?
is they'll even tell you like they'll disclose the name of the game that they're working on, or they'll disclose the type of game that they're working on right now. And they want some ideas on how you would impact that in a positive way, and what are some of the things that are, how would you look to define yourself and stand out from everybody else. And it's important that you structure your thing to showcase the necessity, to showcase that you could be a great fit for for those games, because that's just kind of how it is. If you're able to showcase that, then that's how you land
Mm-hmm.
the interview process and whatnot. And luckily with them, they go through a whole series of they have three interview phases, and the final interview is basically a test, so to speak. And if you're able to pass that test within the final interview, um, then that's you hired. So like for anybody who wants to get into the game industry, make sure you have a portfolio, and make sure if it's a game that you want to work on, and you are very much, what's the word, more into the gameplay side and whatnot, make sure you're capable of showcasing that you could improve or impact gameplay in a way. If you're trying to get on as a writer, be able to show them that you could convince them that you could write compelling stuff. Um, and they'll give you criterias too, like Guerrilla Games, for one of their projects, which was this. They wanted you. When I was looking at it and was thinking of applying for them, um, one of the things that they said that they wanted
Ah, shit.
a breadth of a 4-page writing piece that you're capable of taking them through a breadth of emotions and a organic conclusion that makes sense. And it doesn't have to be something that makes them cry, but just something that compels an emotional response from them. And you're able, and then within that, then the final test that I found out from people who worked at Gorilla for writing anyway, was that they had to write something on the fly that would be incorporated into a quest. That could be incorporated into a quest, and if it wasn't compelling enough, you didn't get the job.
Bloody hell, that's amazing.
Yeah, and that writing test, they give you 3 hours to do it. Um,
Wow.
they give you 3 hours to do it, and you better be able to write. They said don't get too caught up in trying to edit things, because the editing is going to be, you should edit, but don't spend too much time. But you have basically 3 hours to create a scenario within the game, with these set characters, and you have to make something compelling, to what's the word, that could potentially end up in their game. If they like it that much, they'll hire you. So um, you know, like if you're looking to get into the game industry, you don't have to be the top of your craft, but you just have to be really, really good, and be open and modest about it. So like, um, I'm doing stuff right now, preparing for the second interview, and I'm preparing for the eventuality that if I do get this, then they're gonna ask me to do something in the essence of what I believe my strengths are. And for me, that is the game design aspect, and that is the thing of writing because I'm critical, and I take
If
those
there's one
things
thing I admire
seriously.
about you, Deezy, it's you're not lazy. And you're
Oh no, I
industrious,
love to
bro.
procrastinate. I
But
love
you're
to
also
procrastinate. Don't let that
organized.
fool you.
Mate, you give a completely different impression. That's all I can say. And I guess impressions is all that matters, especially in the interview phase.
Well, the impression is all that matters. Impressions is what it is, right? Because that's half the fucking battle. But
Yeah,
like,
100%, bro. But hats off to you and
once
good luck to you. Not that.
I put my head to something, I'm gonna be relentless about it. But like, even me, sometimes I'm just like, fuck, just hire me, give me the fucking job so I could show you better than I could tell you. I don't want to do this dog and pony show, but you got to prove yourself.
Yeah,
That's
big facts.
they, that's just what it is.
Well done, man. And every blessing going forward. I tell you what, I'll be proud. I'd be proud AF, proud AF, my guy. That like because I know you won't give up and you'll eventually land it one way or another because you're persistent and you're extremely passionate, and committed. But like to have to have a FireSprite developer on my show is, and not only that, but a FireSprite developer as a close friend is bragging rights for sure. I'm gonna be geeking out. I'm gonna be geeking out like a madman. I feel like Ned who's friends with Spider-Man.
Yeah. I totally get you.
But
I
but
totally get you.
But but yeah, guys. So we've got a show tomorrow, Company of Gamers podcast. Definitely be there. You don't want to miss this. It's going to be an awesome show. And hit that like button. Definitely hit that subscribe button. If you're not already, and that bell icon. I sound like a proper YouTuber now, don't I? Bloody hell. And just stay awesome. I don't know if there's anything else you wanna touch on, DZ, before we wrap this up.
Nah, man. Nah, it was good to hang out with you, bro. I
Same here.
definitely agree. I definitely agree. It's something we should do much, much, much more often.
I agree.
I always
I've
like,
really enjoyed this.
I always like these impromptu, chill chit chat. Very much organic and just ever evolving conversations that don't necessarily stick to, and I'm long witted. So like anything where I could get to talk about the things that I'm currently enjoying
Tell you
is my.
what, Woolley and Deezy, it should be called Wooleasy, the Wooleasy podcast. I love it. But nah, bro, for real, me too. And by the way, if it's cutting out for like a second every now and again, I apologize. Something weird's going on with my internet tonight, but it is quite stormy outside, so maybe that's the problem. But it's been awesome. I've loved it, and I 100%, I'm down for that, Deezy. Doing this more often.
Me too.
Definitely rewind the show, guys, if you're late to tuning in, and be sure to listen to the first hour or so, or the first half an hour, because we dive into things FireSprite related, and it's pretty cool. But it's been an awesome show. Thank you so much to everyone in the chat tonight. You guys have all been lit. You've been absolute fire. Love every one of you. Buck Roger, Twisted Sin, Shaky Shako, Jack Gamer, Retro.
Jacko is in here.
Pardon?
Jacko is in here. Tell him I said what's up.
Hey, Jacko. DZ. Well, you heard him. You don't need to parrot that. PlayStation Extremist, Nelson Gaming, DE, and make sure. Daz Missy as well. What's good, brother? David Simaya. Deezy, do you know what Naughty Dog may be working on apart from Factions and The Last of Us remake? Oh, he's got a question for you, Deezy.
I have no idea because I have no contacts beyond. I have no contacts, and Naughty Dog's pretty secretive with their stuff. I do know about the remake though. Um,
Yeah.
so
So that's
yeah,
pretty much a fact then. The remake is
yeah,
happening.
the
But
remake is happening.
yeah, I remember you accidentally confirmed that a few weeks back, and we caught you in 8K. It was like I love it. I love it. But apparently they're doing unconventional things with this remake, right? That it's more.
Yeah, it is not your typical. I wouldn't even say it's something of like say uh what is it? The recent remakes
Blue Point, Demon
like
Souls.
Blue Point thing, Demon Souls. No, this is Naughty Dog decided to take this in on themselves with Visual Arts Game Services, who originally were
Wow.
ones who were spearheading that. There is some truth to that Jason Schreier article. So for those people who think Schreier is full of bullshit, he's not.
He's very
Um,
credible, but I've never doubted his credibility. But I do think there's a negative twist sometimes for the
yeah,
sake of views.
yeah. There are things that look. A story has to sell. The biggest stories sell on controversy.
Hmm.
So Naughty Dog is one of the best when they do something, stuff turn. When they do something, heads turn. They're just that. They're just that. They're that
They're
bitch.
naughty gods. They're naughty gods.
They're that motherfucking studio, literally.
Yeah,
So
for
like,
real. They're like
um,
Sony. They're up there with Rockstar in terms of fame and reputation.
yeah,
Hands down. By the way, speaking of which, this whole visual arts thing, the outrage was kind of evil Sony giving the Last of Us remake to Naughty Dog and not keeping it exclusively to a team of 70, a visual arts studio. And it was like,
yeah,
I'm sorry, but don't you think that sounds kind of dumb? I mean, if there's anyone who should be working on the Last of Us remake, it's Naughty Dog. And if they're
yeah,
still working with visual arts, I mean, if the outrage is let visual arts make something for themselves for once, make their own IP, not not a remake of a game from another studio. That's not a first party studio at that. So I mean, I'm all for Naughty Dog kind of.
it's that. So that there's a thing that most people there's a common misconception that they're visual arts. They're a full blown support studio that works on every single Sony project that's
Mhm.
there. Every single Sony project that's out there has their hands involved. That support
Yeah,
group is has
they're a
its hands
backbone.
involved. Yeah, so like they've a lot of those people also used to work at Naughty Dog. So and a lot of those people also used to work in the ICE team, which is a part of Naughty Dog. That's like a stat they're located within Naughty Dog in itself. So like there's a lot of cross pollination. So like it's not to say that these people don't know the makeup and the design and everything, because they're very much been involved with Naughty Dog since Sony decided to set them up as a support thing because they just are. So like they're fully capable
Yeah, big time.
of developing and whatnot. And to give a studio that's mostly worked within what is it, the support system and everything that wants to show that they're yeah, that wants to show that they're capable of taking on the reins of something. Um, a remake of a beloved game is a very safe way to go without making a massive risk, because at the very end of all of that, there will be Naughty Dog will still be key players in overseeing all those things.
It's a very
The
clever
thing is,
strategy
yeah, it's a very safe and smart strategy to do that.
because
The
it also
problem,
gives Naughty Dog the freedom to continue working on their new project.
correct. The problem though is that upper leadership within Sony, and I don't mean of just within Worldwide Studios. Um, they're very scrutinous because the game has quite a few big budget changes going into it because it was not just a conventional thing. They were taking the entirety of The Last of Us and putting it on The Last of Us 2's engine and recontextualizing a lot of the things that
Were
worked.
criticized.
And so, yeah, and criticized, and they're recontextualizing and redoing these things on the brand new engine.
So no more of that silly pushing dumpsters to under ladders. I don't know.
I imagine a part of those things would be there. I imagine some of those things were there because, like,
As long as they get rid of the flooded basement level, because that shit scares the crap out of me. Honestly, bro, I can't play that mission. It's too scary. I can't do it.
Really,
Bro,
you know what? I got through that. The
I got
shit
through
that
it.
was most
I got through it, but it was so mate. Honestly, I shit the bed. Shit the bed.
You know what? I had more time. I had a more horrifying time dealing with the stalkers in The Last of Us 2 than
Oh, the Rat King,
than
bro. The Rat King. Oh my days.
than the stalkers in The Last of Us Part 1. Um, so like for me, I thought the stalkers in Part 2 were more scary.
It's how they
Um,
scream at you and sprint at you while screaming, and it's dark and
yeah.
wet, and it's just,
But
it's.
yeah, Rat King was also definitely another thing, which I was just like, nope, nope, nightmare fuel.
Mm,
Like I've played through that game 3 times. Like I said, I've played through The Last of Us 3 times. And even knowing that encounter now in so intimately, that shit still scares the shit out of me.
mm-hmm.
And yeah, for me, it's just one of those things. So like, no, that the Last of Us remake is going to. They're also doing because it's going to be their. They're also improving a lot of things. So like, that game is going to come with 120 hertz mode. Um, on PlayStation 5.
Wow.
That game is going to come with a lot of new bells and whistles. It's going to look the full fucking part. Like,
It's going to be even more visually impressive than The Last of Us Part 2 because it's
yeah,
for PS5, right?
yeah, yeah. It's definitely just for PS5 and
Holy shit, guys. Wow.
yeah.
What? Mm-hmm.
So, like, you all the early Naughty Dog like. This is gonna be like the earliest that Naughty Dog's ever really been featured on the system, on any PlayStation, so to speak, because their games normally come out at the 2 year mark anyway, when they grace a PlayStation console, unless they were launching. So like, this is I tell people that when people say that it absolutely doesn't need to be remade, and I'm like, yeah, but by the time the game comes out, it'll be already 10 years since The Last of Us has already been out, the
Yeah.
original one. So, like, because that game was so modern and forward thinking and how it did things and revolutionized how we played games, how we consumed cinematic stories in games and whatnot, it feels like it's just not worth the retread, but like, nah, this is
Worth
The
it.
Last of Us. Um, this is The Last of Us done well. Like it
This is
is
this is
all
this is
that
what it always deserved to be.
exactly. So like this is The Last of Us, the story that every last one of you motherfuckers say is better than number two. You're getting all that, but you're getting all the fucking polish and forward thinking things with their you know, with Naughty Dog's attention to detail,
And
and
this
you're
will be a
getting it at
flex. This will be a real flex for visual arts
yeah,
team.
you're getting it at 60 frames per second standard, and you're getting it at 120 FPS in one of the modes. and you're getting all the other bells and whistles and the PlayStation 5 flourish from Naughty Dog.
Yeah, you can't say no to
So
that, can you?
yeah, so like nobody in their right mind is gonna say that, oh, I'm not buying that. Like you'd be stupid if you didn't.
Yeah, it's
Absolutely
going to be
stupid.
an experience, and then
Yeah,
playing that, and then The Last of Us Part Two straight after. Wow, it's
yeah. So like, um,
well, you've really
yeah.
pitched it to
So
me, bro. Like I've not heard this take before of the remake, and that really excites me. So that might be a
yeah.
bit of a bombshell thing to tweet out. I might take a video recording
Now,
of
I don't know
this.
when it's coming out. I don't know when it's coming out. I've read just like how many of you guys have read, if you've been following, that the remake could be launched later this year. I don't know the validity of that. I don't know where it's at, but it is definitely something that you all should. Yeah, it's definitely something that you all should go look out for. Um,
Facts.
yeah, so.
And with that being said, guys, we will wrap this up. But yeah, thank you so much, guys, for watching. It's been an awesome evening. Chilling with my boy Deezy and with you guys in the chat. It's been lit. Be sure to check out the first half if you missed it. It's been fire all the way through. And good luck to Deezy with his second interview at FireSprite. FireSprite, if you know what's good for you, you'll hire this guy, or you'll have me to deal
Stop it.
with. I'm joking. I'm joking. I'm joking.
Don't
No,
don't.
no. I'm only kidding. You guys are awesome, by the way. And no, but on a serious note, absolute all the best, Deezy bro. You deserve this. You got this, and I'm rooting for you. We all are. Also, Wolfaki, if you're listening, bro, hit me up for that PS Plus thing. But yeah, hit me up. And also, everybody in the chat, thank you so much again. Really loved tonight. It was very impromptu, unplanned, and it's just been fire. Check out tomorrow's podcast. So tomorrow we will be having the Company of Gamers podcast, episode 21. Got a
More
really...
Deezy, more Woolley, more of
Woolley.
everybody.
Yeah, I'm called Woolleg at the moment because I shaved my hair. I've got an egghead. Wooleg
Woolley.
gamer. No, yeah, no, but it's been Wooleasy tonight, my dude. It's been Wooleasy, you know.
Easy. Yep.
Woolley and Deezy. But what an awesome show! Wow, I love you all. Stay awesome, and enjoy your gaming, and just keep being you, and catch you tomorrow. Peace.
Catch you guys tomorrow. Alrighty. Peace.